You wake up shivering. Your throat is burning. Your leg is hot around the cut. And the camp is already moving without you. There is no hospital, no pharmacy, no white room where someone can scan your blood and name the invisible thing inside you. So what happens now? For most of human history, this was not a rare emergency. This was ordinary life. A thorn went too deep. A tooth cracked on a seed. A fever rose after rain. A baby coughed through the night. And suddenly, survival became a social problem. Your first medicine was not a pill. It was another person. That may sound too soft. Modern life often imagines ancient humans as hard, silent, and almost emotionless, as if your ancestors survived by ignoring pain. But bones, teeth, burial sites, and living hunter-gatherer studies point to something more surprising. When someone got sick, ancient humans did not simply leave them behind. At least, not always. And that not always may be one of the reasons you exist. Imagine the scene. You are lying near a small fire, wrapped in animal skin, sweating in the cold morning air. The group needs food. The group needs water. The group needs to keep moving before scavengers, insects, hunger, and weather begin pressing in from every side. So what do they do with you? The answer depends on how sick you are. A small cut might be cleaned, covered, and watched. A twisted ankle might slow the day's route. A fever might turn the whole camp into a quiet waiting room made of smoke, skins, water, and worried eyes. No one has germ theory. Germ theory means the idea that tiny living organisms can cause disease. Your ancestors cannot see bacteria. They cannot see viruses, but they can see patterns. They know a wound that smells bad is dangerous. They know dirty water can punish the stomach. They know some plants soothe pain, some make vomiting worse, and some can kill. They know rest matters because a hunter who limps too soon may never run well again. Is that primitive, or is that careful observation? One of the strongest clues comes from bones. Bones do not record every cough or every headache. Most sickness disappears with the soft tissue after death. But some injuries leave marks. A broken bone that healed tells you the person survived long enough for the body to repair itself. A severe disability that lasted for years tells you something even bigger. Someone had to help. At Shanidar Cave in the Zagros Mountains of Iraqi Kurdistan, archaeologist Ralph Solecki excavated Neanderthal remains in the 1950s. One famous individual, called Shanidar I, had lived with serious injuries. His right arm was damaged and partly missing. He had signs of trauma to the head and face. He likely had limited vision in one eye, and his hearing may have been affected. Yet he survived for many years after some of these injuries. Later researchers, including Eric Trinkhaus, studied these remains in detail. The exact story is debated because ancient bones do not come with a diary. But the broad point is powerful. A badly injured Neanderthal lived long enough that survival probably required tolerance, help, and protection from others. What would that help have looked like? It may not have looked dramatic. No heroic speech. No miracle cure. Maybe someone carried food closer to him. Maybe someone let him stay near the safest part of the shelter. Maybe someone warned him with touch when danger approached. Maybe someone shared meat, even when he could not hunt well. Care can be quiet. Care can be a piece of marrow passed across a fire. Another clue comes from a field called the bioarchaeology of care. That phrase sounds complicated, but it means studying ancient bones to ask how people cared for sick, injured, or disabled members of their community. Researcher Lorna Tilley helped develop this approach. Instead of only asking what disease a person had, she asked what kind of help that person would have needed to stay alive. One of the most striking cases is not from Europe. It is from Man Bac, a Neolithic site in northern Vietnam. Neolithic means a later prehistoric period when some communities were farming, fishing, gathering, and living in more settled ways. At Man Bac, Lorna Tilley and Mark Oxenham studied a man known as Burial 9. He had severe paralysis that likely began in adolescence. His bones suggest he lived into adulthood despite needing daily help. Think about what that means. Not one helpful afternoon, not one shared meal. Years. Someone had to bring food. Someone had to bring water. Someone had to help him move. Someone had to clean him. protect him, and include him in a life that was already difficult for everyone. In a world without wheelchairs, antibiotics, or hospitals, long-term survival with severe paralysis is not just a medical fact, it is a social fact. So when someone got sick, your ancestors had a decision to make. Could the person recover? Could the group spare time? Was the sick person a child, a parent, an elder, a skilled toolmaker, a storyteller, a hunter, a gatherer, a relative, a friend? And maybe the hardest question of all, what did it mean to be human? Ancient care was not modern medicine. A deep infection could still kill. Childbirth could still kill. A broken femur, the large bone of the thigh, could be a death sentence if the break was severe. A tooth infection could spread into the jaw and blood. A fever could take a strong adult in a few days. Your ancestors were not secretly living in paradise. But helpless does not mean hopeless. They had practical tools: water, fire, rest, pressure on bleeding wounds. Splints made from wood, bark, hide, or plant fiber. Smoke to drive away insects. Warmth to stop the body from collapsing in cold weather. And perhaps most important, memory. Memory was the ancient medical library, not written on paper, written in bodies. Your grandmother knew which leaf eased swelling because someone once tried it. A hunter knew which resin sealed a cut because he had watched a wound close under it. A gatherer knew which bitter plant upset the stomach and which bitter plant calmed it. Every cure began as a dangerous experiment. Every warning began as someone's pain. At El Cedron Cave in Spain, researcher Karen Hardy and colleagues studied Neanderthal dental calculus. Dental calculus is hardened plaque on teeth. It can trap tiny traces of food, smoke, and plant chemicals for tens of thousands of years. In 2012, Hardy's team reported compounds linked to yarrow and chamomile in Neanderthal teeth. These plants are bitter and not especially useful as calories, but they have long histories as medicinal plants. Does that prove Neanderthals had doctors? No, science has to be careful. A trace in tooth plaque does not show exactly why a plant was eaten, but it opens a door. It suggests your ancient relatives knew plants as more than food. They may have understood bitterness not only as danger, but sometimes as treatment. What else did they know that left no trace? They probably knew the body needed stillness after injury. They probably knew wounds should be guarded from dirt, flies, and repeated damage. They probably knew a feverish person needed water more than meat. They probably knew crying babies with rashes needed shade, warmth, or different food. Not perfect knowledge, pattern knowledge. The kind learned by watching life and death repeat for thousands of generations. Now place yourself back beside the fire. Your leg is swollen. The cut came from a sharp stone while crossing a dry riverbed. You want to walk. You want to prove you are useful. But an older woman kneels beside you and pushes your shoulder down. Her face says no. She washes the wound with water. Maybe it is clean water from a spring. Maybe it is the best water the group has. She presses fiber against the cut. A younger person feeds the fire until smoke drifts across the ground and insects scatter. Someone else leaves with the foragers and returns with roots, berries, and a bundle of leaves. You are not cured. You are being managed. That word matters. Modern medicine often aims to defeat disease. Ancient care often had to manage weakness until the body did the work itself. The immune system, meaning the body's defense against infection, was still the main healer. Fire helped, plants helped, hands helped, but the body had to close the wound, burn through the fever, rebuild the bone, and survive. Sometimes the group would move anyway. If the season demanded it, staying could mean starvation. If predators were too close, stopping could risk everyone. Ancient compassion had limits, because ancient life had limits. A person too sick to move might be carried for a while. A child might be held. An elder might be supported between two adults. But there may have been terrible days when the group had no good choice. This is the part modern imagination often avoids. Care was real. Abandonment was also possible. The past was not a cartoon of cruelty or kindness. It was a hard landscape, where love and necessity wrestled every day. What would you choose if every extra hour in one place cost food, safety, and warmth for everyone else? That is why ancient sickness was never only personal. It tested the whole group. When one body failed, the group had to reorganize. Someone hunted less. Someone gathered more. Someone watched the children. Someone stayed close to the sick. The cost of illness was shared. But the benefits of care were shared too. A recovered hunter could hunt again. A healed mother could feed and teach her children. An elder who could no longer run might still know where water hides in a dry season. A skilled toolmaker with a bad leg might still make the blade that saves a life. A storyteller might carry the group's memory through winter. Who counts as useful when survival depends on more than muscle? This may be the counterintuitive twist. Ancient humans did not become strong by abandoning the weak. They became strong by making weakness survivable. Your species is not the fastest animal, not the strongest, not the toughest against cold, claws, or infection. Your advantage was the group. Shared attention, shared food, shared warnings, shared care. Anthropologist Sarah Hrdy has argued that human childhood depended on cooperative breeding. That means children were often helped by people beyond the mother, such as fathers, grandmothers, siblings, and other group members. A human baby is born helpless for a long time. A sick human is, for a while, pushed back toward that helplessness. Care for children and care for the sick may come from the same deep human skill, noticing another body's need and responding. This is why a fever in the Paleolithic world was not just a private symptom. Paleolithic means the long Stone Age before farming, when humans lived by hunting, gathering, fishing, and foraging. A fever changed the rhythm of the camp. The fire burned longer. The walking slowed. The whispers got softer. Someone listened to your breathing in the dark. There were no nurses in uniforms. But there were watchers. There were no prescriptions. But there were remembered plants. There were no hospital beds. But there was a place near the fire where the sick person could be warm, visible, and protected. And there was fear. Not superstitious stupidity, human fear. If a sickness spread from one person to another, your ancestors may not have known about microbes, but they could notice patterns of contact. Maybe a coughing person was kept a little farther away. Maybe a corpse was treated carefully. Maybe a place associated with death was avoided for a time. The explanation might be spirits, smell, pollution, or danger. The behavior could still reduce risk. Ancient medicine was a mixture of observation, ritual, trial, error, and care. Ritual means repeated actions that give meaning and control when life feels uncontrollable. A chant does not kill bacteria, but a ritual can gather helpers, calm fear, mark a crisis, and remind everyone what to do. In a world without machines, meaning itself was part of survival. The sick person needed more than treatment. You needed hope. You needed someone to stay when your body became frightening. You needed someone to believe tomorrow was still possible. Even today, pain feels worse when you are alone. That is not weakness. That is biology. Your nervous system was built in groups. Your heart rate changes when a trusted person touches you. Your fear changes when someone sits nearby. Your chances of following through on rest, food, water, and protection improve when another person helps you do it. The ancient campfire is still inside the modern hospital room. So what did ancient humans do when someone got sick? They watched, they remembered, they cleaned, warmed, fed, carried, isolated, prayed, experimented, and waited. Sometimes they succeeded, sometimes they failed, and sometimes, against brutal odds, they kept someone alive long enough for their bones to tell the story thousands of years later. The next time you swallow medicine, check your temperature, or send a message that says you are not feeling well. You are using modern tools for an ancient problem. Your body still wants water. Your body still wants warmth. Your body still wants rest. And somewhere underneath all the technology, your body still wants the oldest medicine of all, another person. You wake up shivering. Your throat is burning. Your leg is hot around the cut. But this time, the camp has not moved without you. Thank you for watching the video. Please leave a comment about your thoughts on ancient people.